Hello everyone. It is April 25th. I haven't filmed anything this month because it's been quite a month, okay? It's been busy, it's been chaotic, it has been exhausting. You can hear Clover under the table drinking water. You guys don't know Clover because we got her at the tail end of March. She's a cutie. Sorry, honey. Come here. This is her. This is Clover. She has gotten significantly heavier since we got her, so she's hard to pick up. But she's a sweetie. About 5 months old now, so she's really young. And so we're doing a lot of puppy training, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of attention and time required, but it's been worth it. It's been nice to have another little dog around. Outside of that, the total solar eclipse happened at the beginning of this month, and Matt's parents had a big party on their land. And so a lot of time went into preparing for that and like just being there for that. Matt and I's anniversary was this month, which was such a sweet day and such a relaxing day compared to the entirety of the rest of the month. Man. Also, Mercury has been in retrograde the whole month. I don't know how you feel about astrology, but I'm a star watching girly, so I fully subscribe to Mercury retrograde being a time of chaos and miscommunication and plans going awry. So that being a factor in April has been a lot. So my mental state over the past couple weeks has not been the greatest. Due to hormonal imbalance, I went through a little bit of a depressive episode in the first couple weeks of the month. It's pretty low, pretty deep darky for me, and that was not fun. So all of that being said, I don't have much to show you this month, but I wanted to put something out because it has been a year since my first monthly vlog went up, where I talked about deleting social media, and you got to see Matt and I's trip to Disney. If you want to watch that, you can go back and do so. But I want to talk about social media a little bit. Just a little bit, because I don't have a lot to say, but I have a little, so I'm going to talk about it. Last year I deleted all of my social media, Facebook, Twitter, my personal Instagram. I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting. TikTok, but TikTok I had deleted a little bit earlier than April. Anyway, Instagram was the big one, and I kept my podcast Instagram, You're So Introverted, because I was like, I mean, that's kind of like a business Instagram. I kind of need to keep it in a way, at least until I find a different medium for promoting myself. So I kept that, and along the way, in the past few months, I have started a vintage reselling business, which also has an Instagram now. And I started a Bookstagram during the summer. So the Bookstagram has kind of become like my personal Instagram was, except I don't post on it nearly as much as I would have my personal Instagram. And I don't really use it to like keep up with friends for the most part. Maybe like close friends I follow on that account, but it's not like I use it as like social interaction. But okay, here's the other thing though. Okay, I moved to a really, really small town, and you can hear a boat passing right now, so I'm gonna give it a second. I moved to a small town of like a little over 1,000 people, and in this 1,000 people, most everyone is either under the age of 20 and in like grade school, high school, or they're over the age of 50. And I knew this when we moved up here, but it's been really difficult for me to find outlets for social interaction, and that has made me a little bit lonely. So whether or not having Instagram is helping me, I don't know, but it's at least giving me some form of human interaction, even if it's very, very minimal. And I'm trying to be healthy with it. I'm trying to really limit my screen time. I'm trying not to do any mindless scrolling, and I do get caught up in that a little bit, but I'm at least being more intentional about it. So regardless of the fact that, yes, I deleted all my social media last year, and yes, I added 2 new Instagram accounts to my repertoire this year, regardless of all that, I do feel like I have a better relationship with technology and social media than I did. So I would call that a positive. I would call that a successful baby step forward, okay? But yeah, I just wanted to say that because I'm not 100% social media free. I kind of wish I was, but I don't think that that's feasible in the season of life that I'm in right now. I honestly don't think it would be good for my mental health to just totally scrap all of it. Not until I figure out a better way for me to connect with people in the place that I live. Until then, I need to have some kind of outlet into humanity, into society. And as long as I'm staying healthy about it, that's all that matters. I also wanted to give you a little reading update because if I do a TBR jar for May, I'm going to do it in the middle of the month because I haven't finished my TBR for April, and I've added 2 buddy reads to the mix. And let me just pull up some data, some statistics here. Beginning of the month, I finished Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen, which was my nostalgia read for this month, and boy howdy, I love that book so much. It is a forever 5-star read for me, not because like the writing style is just immaculate or because it's a timeless book. The book is very much not timeless. Like, the perspectives on womanhood and girlhood that are intertwined throughout the book are a little bit problematic, but for an early 2000s release, it was very progressive for its time. But it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy, this book. So it's a forever 5-star. Forever nostalgia book, forever reread. I'm so glad that I have it on my shelf now. Everything feels good when I read that book. It was also a perfect book to read during a depressive episode because it like kind of gave me light at the end of the tunnel type of thing. The second book I read this month, which is like a total 180 from a chick lit book, was Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, by Yuval Noah Harari. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. I think that I got it right though. I thought this book was going to be hard to read, and it wasn't, and that made me, I was blown away by the author's writing style because the amount of information that was woven through the entirety of the book would have been so difficult to absorb had it been written any other way. And I don't even know how to describe it, but I was just so impressed by how much information was being relayed that I was able to retain. And it wasn't just, I thought that this book was just going to be like the beginnings of humanity, like evolution, etc., and that was part of it, but it also like got into the roots of capitalism. It got into like the origins of money. The span of like topics that were covered in this book, absolutely bonkers. I loved it. It talked about the diet that we eat and what humans, Homo sapiens, were eating at the origins of our species. Like, it was fascinating, and I will be rereading it, absolutely. It was a 5-star book for me. I can understand how people would rate it lower. I've heard critiques that the source material either wasn't well defined or it wasn't like varied enough. I don't know. That's all like way over my head, but I loved the book. So my next book that I finished yesterday was Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe, which was my Young 20s Womanhood prompt book. And by the way, the last Sapiens was the Matt Picks book for April. So Fried Green Tomatoes, I liked it. I got about like 75% of the way through before I watched the movie with my mom and my sister, and watching the movie changed my whole perspective on the book, because for whatever reason my brain, it does not compute like the time hopping multiple POV storytelling style. So to go from storytelling with 2 characters in the 80s to like going back and forth to the 40s to the 50s, back to the 80s, and like all these different characters, I just started to get confused, and it made me, I couldn't get invested in the book until I watched the movie. And then I started to kind of connect all these characters to faces so that it was easier for me to follow their storylines. So in the end, after I finished the book, it ended up being a 3.5 star book for me. On Goodreads, I rated it 3 stars and like rounded it to 3.5 in my review. But yeah, it was just okay. I feel like if I reread it, I would enjoy it more. And there were a lot of interesting comments about womanhood and gender, especially during that time period. But it didn't quite fulfill not void, but like it didn't do what I wanted it to do, is what I'm trying to say. So it wasn't my favorite by any means, but it was good. It was good. It was not a bad book. I would reread it. I'm glad I own it. The book that I'm reading right now, I'll give you the 2 books. So physical copy book that I'm reading is Bowling Alone: The Collapse and Revival of American Community by Robert Putnam. And this was the book that fulfilled the prompt, a book that intimidates me. And the reason it intimidated me was because of how massive it is. It's over 400 pages, and I know for some people that's not a lot, but for me it is. And the text was really small, and it was just a lot of like statistical information, which I love, but in certain quantities it can be a lot. So I was intimidated when I bought this one. But it's been so good. I'm actually flying through it. I think I will finish it by the end of April, which is like a huge win for me. But also, it was published in 2000, so 24 years ago. So a lot of the information is outdated, but it's still fascinating to see, especially when he talks about technology and like the rise of the internet, and he's like saying we don't know yet how big of an impact the internet will have on society and on social capital, like, my mind is being blown just by being in the future of when this book was written. You know what I mean? But it's so good. I think that I'll probably end up rereading it and finding other books that are like, that are on the same topic but more recent. And contradictory to that point, I will also be reading The Great Good Place by, oh, I don't remember his name. It's Ray something. But that book was written in the 1980s, and I plan to read The Great Good Place by Ray Oldenburg. I plan to read that one as well, but it was written in the 80s, so I'm going a little back in time. But all of that is so fascinating to me, and discussing the topic of community and how people interact with each other is so cool to me. And with the steady decline of community and companionship, it's also very deeply concerning to me. But I want to learn as much about it as I can so that I can like be like a counterbalance to that decline and figure out how to, you know, sustain a community in my own personal life. So that's what I'm reading as a physical copy. And then as an audiobook, I've been so excited about this book. I didn't know it existed until I came across it on Libby. Madeline Pendleton. If you don't know who she is, it's probably because you don't lean to the left on the political spectrum. But I found her on TikTok years ago when I was still on TikTok, and she was talking about how she owns a business that is run on like universal basic income. Every employee gets the same pay rate, including her, the owner of the business. Just a lot of like ethical practices that in a capitalist society we don't see as the norm. So she wrote this book on finance, and it's called I Survived Capitalism and All I Got Was This Lousy T-Shirt. Everything I wish I never had to learn about money. And I don't like money. I don't like talking about it. Talking about money stresses me out. Listening to this book has made me feel so validated, and it's made me feel hopeful for the future of our country in specific. Just because like the way she's discussing money and the way she's discussing capitalism and the way she runs her business, she shows a path forward for society, for a society that is not run on capitalism as the norm. And we just don't see practical examples of that ever. And there's probably a reason for that. That would be conspiratorial of me to discuss, but I love it. And if you're curious at all about the more like socialist leanings on money, this is a great book for that, because she really goes deep into it, and she talks from personal experience. And I would recommend listening to the audiobook because she narrates it, and the way that she does it is just incredible. I'm not done with it yet, but I know that I'm going to rate it 5 stars, and I know that I will be purchasing this book as soon as possible, and I will be recommending it to everyone because it's just so good. It'll be my favorite book of April, like hands down for sure. I can't imagine any book topping this one for this month. So yeah, that's what I've been reading this month. And next month I will be finishing out my TBR for April, so that means The Great Gatsby, The Turn of the Screw, and I think those are the last 2 that I didn't finish. So I'll be reading those two. I will also be buddy reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue with a friend of mine, and I will be buddy reading A Little Life with my sister. And I'm very nervous about that one because every review I've ever seen is like 5 stars, except it made me sob and cry and scream. So I'm nervous because of the emotional turmoil that I'm about to put myself through, but I'm excited that I'm not reading it alone. That'll be good. So those are the 4 books that I plan on reading throughout May. I also have Matthew Perry's memoir on hold at the library on Libby. So I'll probably be starting that during the month of May. It's called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. And I've been waiting for this one for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm really excited to listen to it. I think it'll be very sad, but I'm excited nonetheless. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of all I wanted to say. Do you like my flowers? I love them. I got them yesterday and they make me so happy. But yeah, I've been talking for about 20 minutes. But I just wanted to give you a little update, a little fun update on Lucy in the month of April. Hopefully next month will be more, you know, more spread out video clips and updates and stuff, and not just like one big one at the end of the month. But also my allergies have been so bad. Also, I got my hair cut this month and I love it. I love my hair this length. I don't know why I ever grow it out, other than the fact that it does take longer to style and make it look good. But once I get there, I'm like, dang, looking good. So anyway, sorry. Oh, okay. Happy April. I'm excited for May.